Welcome back, everybody. It's Levi and Sam here to do another update on whatever's going on in Flesh and Blood.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
All right.
So since we last spoke, I don't even remember, was the last time we talked when High Seas came out?
No, we did a video with Super Slam before we had seen all the cards. Remember we were talking about the heroes?
Yeah, so now the new heroes are out. The whole set is out, and we've actually even had a calling since then. So we figured best time now to kind of go over what's happened, what went down through the whole Super Slam release, and kind of where are we sitting now looking forward to Proquest season, even Worlds going ahead. So to start, what did you think of Super Slam release? I mean, we were in Montreal, so hello to everyone that we got to see in Montreal when we were there for the world premiere. But what are your thoughts so far on the set?
Set is really cool as far as like theme and stuff. I heard a lot of mixed reviews on the limited set. I didn't get a chance to play it, but
for those of you who watched the actual calling for the world premiere.
I'm never a huge fan of limited. And then hearing people talk about, I got hit by a 25 with a confidence on turn 3 or turn 2, and it's like that. I don't know. That doesn't sound like my cup of tea. But there were also a lot of people who were saying they're having a great time. So
sure, anyone can have a great time doing anything if that's what you enjoy doing. But from my perspective, when I walked around and watched it and then saw the games and talked to some players, limited set looks pretty questionable. Limited in general looks to be like an experience that I would say was very difficult to balance given the mass amount of expansion slot cards that they put in the set. And then because of that, needing to have the super rarity introduced in order to try to balance whatever there was within the limited set itself seemed to be quite a difficult feat to maneuver. And then on top of that, not even having weapons being a part of the limited experience creates a very swingy back and forth dynamic, which I know a lot of people don't typically enjoy. And especially also coming off of High Seas, which was like one of the best limited experiences they created, to this, which is kind of on the complete opposite end of the spectrum. I think it was quite a, I'll just say like unsavory experience when it comes to the limited experience.
Granted, High Seas didn't have like the most real of weapons. You have a Ranger who doesn't have a weapon. You have Gravey who doesn't have a weapon. And then Puffin's weapons were pretty reliant on golden cogs, correct?
Yeah, you had to have cog,
Yeah, so they didn't have real weapons, but a big part of like past limited sets has just been on the back foot, having the ability to pivot off of one card, being able to just swing a weapon, or reach endgame fatigue states where your weapon's relevant.
Yeah, but the weapons were consistency mechanics. So they at least, they may not have been consistent damage output, but they at least provided a consistent experience for your hero when you were going through the gameplay. Like Gravey with the compass provided some level of consistency into your game plan. You know, the weapon for Puffin, the blunderbuss, and then the other one at least allowed some sort of consistent value output for your game plan, right? Like they assisted in your game plan. Whereas this, you're just like throwing down whatever you got in your hand and setting up to try to get some mega turn that you can do.
Especially being like a Brute Guardian set, you don't have a ton of one card plays. I guess there are some of the Guardian cards are 0 costs. And I guess there's a couple, but a lot of your things, you got to hold 2 cards. So as soon as you hit like 3 life, it's just really hard to ever pivot back.
So generally speaking, I think the limited experience has quite a mixed review, and I think that LSS is aware of this as well, considering that it will not be a part of Worlds. At least there'll be side events, but there will not actually be in the main event. No limited, no Super Slam to be seen. It's only going to be class constructed and living legend formats. So they're quite aware, I think.
Which I think that's huge points to them to recognize, like, hey, it's a solid set, but it's not our best set. And go, we're not going to double down and go play it anyways. We're going to say, okay, we accept that it might not have been the best. We'll adjust the format to make it a more enjoyable experience at Worlds.
So all in all, I think that they handled it pretty well. The set itself is quite unique compared to anything we've seen this year. And to be honest, it's probably one of the more unique sets that we've seen in the last 2 years.
And it's the first time we've seen a non-4 in the intellect spot for Classic Constructed.
All around, I think, like design-wise, they tried a lot of interesting things. Set-wise, they tried a lot of interesting things. Like even with rarity and expansion slots and even reprints, like it's just a very experimental set all in all. Like they tried a lot of different things to try to fix a number of different issues while still trying to innovate a little bit on the design aspect, which I think they did successfully because so far to this point, we haven't seen anything completely broken in half. Like all the heroes are playable and cool and unique, but they don't like break the game entirely, which I'm very happy about. I'd much rather have a set released of like B tier, low A tier, C tier heroes than like another slew of Rosetta, Mistveil kind of power level.
Yeah, and then obviously like Pleiades, Lyeth, and probably Reviled KO as well are all like relatively complex decks as far as how you're building them in ratios. So not seeing them perform on the first weekend or the first couple weeks is like expected. If they were performing day one, that would be scary.
Yeah.
Kind of like what happened with Gravy performing on day one. And that turned
Mistveil.
out to be scary.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good spot. I think Tough Nut's relatively easier to figure out.
Well, Tough Nut kind of like confines you into a particular build pattern.
Yeah.
Like the deck kind of pushes you to have to build in a certain way. I mean, just you can change the cards, but like ratio-wise, it's kind of like you're going to be playing majority yellows and blues.
Yeah.
And if you are playing reds, you play like 3 really good reds, like the one super rare or majestic, whatever they are. Learning all the names for this set has been really tough, like all the new cards.
I can never remember brute card names in general. And this set, we were playing the other day.
Yeah.
And he kept saying card names. I'm like, dude, I don't know what that is. You had some combination of Smash, Reckless, Stampede, Swing. And it's like, it's a different brute card, and I can't remember them. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, so the naming system has gotten a little convoluted with the different
It's always been that way for Brute.
For Brute itself, yeah, specifically. But I guess that's like a kind of good transition point to talk about the new heroes themselves. I know you haven't been playing a ton.
I haven't. I've started watching some more content on it, but I have not dove into it. It's like I said, the heroes look complicated to build, and it's been a little overwhelming. So I kind of just put it off.
Well, I've been playing a lot to a certain degree. I've tried Lyeth, I've tried New KO, I've tried Old KO, I've tried Tough Nut. Yeah. The only hero I haven't really messed with is Pleiades, just because, like you said, I think that deck is very difficult to build. I think that it has a lot of different engines that are currently trying to function through it, and I am not a Guardian player, so I have no inspiration to want to figure it out. So I'm going to just let the people figure out what it is.
I sat down with it and the card pool, and I was like, I cannot figure this out right now.
Like, I know there's better people out there who will have much better plans. Like, Yuto is already working on it, so I have full faith in his capacity to build a good deck. I know that the Sunflower Samurais, for some reason, believe that the deck is very capable, so they are functioning. Like, Pablo is probably working on something. So I'll let them figure that out, and that'll come out later. Yeah. But Lyeth and New KO are... People are still... I like Cheeto or RKO, I guess. We'll just call it RKO. But those decks are actually quite good. They're not, like, ridiculous, but... We're in that like period in another. I feel like we're saying this every single meta. There's like this is the meta where it's like these heroes are capable once this set of old heroes LLs because it'll open up the space again, and like we're still kind of seeing Earth heroes dominate a certain spectrum of the meta because they just kind of consume a very high level mid-range value plan that just beats out most other decks that are trying to compete in that same avenue. And then you have Gravy that just contests the polarity of the meta, where it's like this section of the meta is going to get dominated by Gravy, and then this section might be able to contest him, but he's still so good that like he'll be able to beat them like Syndras and stuff like that, right? So because of that, there isn't a lot of equity in the meta for these new heroes to kind of fit and dominate because they're not doing anything unique or different. They're kind of still filling the space of some of these other archetypes. It's just that there's other heroes that fill that space in a better way. Right. So once we see like the Florians leave and maybe like old KO kind of shift out, well, that's going to change a ton. Once old KO LLs, that's going to dynamically adjust the entire build for Brutes as a whole because they'll lose Claw. But once we see those shifts start to occur, then I think these new heroes might be able to find their space and kind of decide where they want to be. But currently, none of them like answer the meta in a unique way or like combat it in a very dynamic way that some other hero can't do right now. But like Lyeth has a lot of unique tools. Like Instant Speed Intimidate is not something we've really seen before, which is incredibly obnoxious. There's his Truth or Trickery card, which is like literally one of my most rage-inducing cards that they've ever printed in the history of Flesh and Blood. I think that card is like the most high variance, straight up like coin flip card we've ever seen in Flesh and Blood.
I mean, it basically just has a coin flip printed on it. It doesn't say coin flip or die roll, but it's a coin flip. Yeah,
it's a coin flip card that, like, granted, it doesn't, like, and that's what I'm saying. This card and the Instant Speed Intimidate card, incredibly annoying, very good, but it's not like it like dramatically changes the power level of Lyeth. Like he has these tools which are almost necessary to his playstyle, but they're not like creating these incredibly unfun. Well, they're creating unfun experiences, but it's not creating oppressive experiences.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So not yet. Yeah, not yet. But so he has a lot of unique tools. His ability to manipulate and like change the value of cards that we've seen before, like being able to buff CNCs with Minnowisms and Nimblism, or not Nimblism, Minnowism, and all the other buff cards like Sadistic Scowl and stuff like that. Have a very unique effect on how we've seen old cards interact with the new set. And then, of course, having 5 intellect is just very like dynamic.
Yeah, it's just fundamentally powerful.
Yeah, and you can build him in a lot of different ways. So I think Lyeth has potential. It's just going to take some time for people to decide what the best version is. And he's incredibly inconsistent currently, given he has like a very Runeblade Ranger-esque capacity to the deck, where you have to mix buffs with attacks, and you get payoff cards with non-payoff cards, and a lot of times you could kind of like end up in awkward situations where you just kind of run out of steam. So people will figure that out, I'm sure. I know like AgriBlaze has been playing a lot of Lyeth, and I know a couple of other friends that I have personally who are playing with him, trying to figure him out. So, but yeah, healthy way. Similar like Tough Nut with 3 intellect. I think that hero's kind of ridiculous. Like any hero in Flesh and Blood that's just trying to play like normal Flesh and Blood where you're attacking and defending, Tough Nut just kind of like slaughters them in a way.
Right.
But as soon as like you stop attacking him and you just set up like a mega turn, then he gets a little uncomfortable or have like super wide aggressive plans and stuff like that. So, but Tough Nut definitely is just like existing, having a good time in the space of Flesh and Blood that he likes to exist in.
I mean, that's his vibe, right?
That's his vibe, man. He's just here for a good time, you know, just trying to swing rock and block out and just vibe. So, RKO I think is actually quite powerful. That deck has a lot of potential. It's kind of just an ape deck. Like if you get ahead on life, you just start like we were saying. I was joking about earlier. Like you start with the big bullies, you knock them down, and then every turn is just like mocking slap, mocking slap, mocking slap, and that's really tough. A lot of decks struggle to keep up with that level of value. I mean, you're doing like 1 card 6, 1 card 5 a lot of time. Like you have so many 0 cost 6 value cards in the deck. That's just a crazy number push that we haven't really seen that a lot of other decks are capable of producing at this time as consistently as KO does. So I think RKO has a lot of potential in the future, especially now. I think that as more people pick the deck up and start playing, I think that he could definitely be in a scary position in the game. He's just not like broken in half. Like the deck's kind of weird. Like you build it in a really strange way. It's like a weird brute hybrid thing where you're not playing a ton of brute cards. He's not even playing Blood Rush, which is we've never seen that in a brute before, right? Yeah. So he just kind of like exists in his own little space in the corner, playing big number brute cards and like big armor, but like not really functioning like a normal brute. So yeah, that's kind of like the thoughts. And then, of course, you get buffed to the old heroes, like old KO. I have a deck tech that'll come out for that. That deck's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, it's not doing anything new. It's just like you're doing all the old things you did. You just straight up have bigger numbers. Like,
I mean, we've been saying it's ridiculous. Everyone's been saying it's ridiculous, but it didn't do that well.
Well, one made top 8.
I guess we'll get into that when we get into the event.
Yeah.
But
so, I mean... we'll talk about that when we get to the calling and kind of just start discussing like the meta itself. But Victor didn't get really any super hard direct support from Super Slam, right? But he got pretty buffed by Mastery Pack, so he got a good slew of options there.
Yeah, deck's still good.
Deck's still good. I mean, Rhinar, as we saw, did pretty well in top 8. Again, didn't get like massive upgrades, but enough to kind of like, at least between the meta share and then like the deck itself with its slight upgrades, it's gotten enough to kind of do something.
Yeah.
So yeah, brutes have gotten a decent array of slight upgrades, but more importantly, the expansion slot cards have been pretty insane. Like, I mean, Verdant's getting the 6 arcane spell is incredible.
Crazy.
Nasty card. Why am I drawing a blank? Is that really like the only highly impactful card that
I mean, that was probably like the most impactful.
impactful?
I mean, we didn't see any Prisms show up, but the new Prism card's very, very good.
Yeah, Prism really struggles currently in the meta, I think.
Yeah.
She's like always there like waiting, the Predator in the corner, like waiting for her opportunity.
As soon as there's a good metaphor, she'll come back.
But there's a lot of big numbers with
like
KO.
Brute, with KO, you can't really play Prism right now.
Acilio.
Yeah.
Didn't get anything.
He didn't
right?
get anything.
But
But painful passage for Vincent.
Yeah.
I think
You mean for chain?
True.
Yeah.
Was Brody playing that in his chain list?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah, the card's ridiculous.
Sick. What other? I've been pulling these expansion slot cards.
Yeah. We've been like we'll get to that too, talking about from the vendor perspective, not the player perspective, like about the set itself and how it's affected the market and stuff like that. But we've been pulling like a lot of expansion slot orders. Like, I mean, a lot of orders I've gotten are just 3 of this one expansion slot card that this person plays, and like a lot of them too, not just the same ones over and over.
The new gravy card, I don't think saw play. Did
no,
it might have been in the sideboard, but I didn't see it in the list.
Oh yeah, the new Guardian Arms, actually, the legendaries I've been seeing.
Those are really cool.
Very cool, and like kind of been revitalizing some OG Bravo players. I've seen them picking the deck up again and kind of messing with it.
Back on their copium.
Yeah, and it's not like that different, but it's enough to where it at least provides some interesting
I mean,
engagement.
It changes from typically just 3 value arms to potentially 5.
Yeah.
But even if you get 4, like, it's an extra point.
You get to push the break point of when you're already like really powerful on hits, right? So it's pretty interesting. So yeah, I mean, the cards themselves have been pretty fun to play with. I mean, overall, I think like the set has a lot of interesting, fun cards. Like even the generic cards like Cutting Retort is really interesting. The Fabled, actually,
Fabled has seen a lot of play.
Fabled got a lot of play over the Calling. So I don't know, that's a whole nother like thing of how you feel about having playable Fables, but like, that's its own conversation.
Catch of the day for Marlin.
Yeah.
You mentioned meta impact, so I didn't bring it up at first.
No. That's a significant card, though.
It's a big upgrade for the deck.
Yeah, like just hardcore just goes in the deck, right?
Yeah.
So, so I guess like while we're on that topic, then we could just kind of go into like a market assessment, because that's what you've really been putting your time to.
Market has been what I've been
Go ahead, talk about the current state of the market of the set and where the money is and where it's not, and kind of what's been going on.
This set is going to be really cheap. And I didn't process that fully at the world premiere, but as we were opening, I was realizing basically super rares are close to as rare as Majestics, like looking for specific super versus specific Majestic. They're a little more common, but not a ton. And then there's also just a ton more Majestics. So when comparing to previous sets, we're looking at like 2 to 2.5 times as many like rare pulls per box, which is really fun while opening. The issue is that means all of those cards that were $10 are now going to be 2.5 times cheaper. So they're going to be like $4. Those $20 cards are going to be, your $8 or whatever. And so we're seeing that as recording on like TCG Player, all of these cards are, $3-5. These cards that we would have expected to be 10, 15 at release for other sets, which makes sense based on the pull rates. It's just kind of a shock when you're expecting stuff to be more expensive. The other thing is the reprints.
Oh, man.
Well, you talked about it. They were experimenting with it, and I think they might have turned the dial a little too far.
You think? A little too far?
Friday morning, Felling of the Crown was at $5, and that was like, it's good. I want that card to be affordable, but at the same time, as a vendor, we're sitting on backstock from other sets, and it's like, there are Fellings that we had purchased for $60, $70, and now they're worth $5 or $10, and it's like, that is scary for vendors and players as well.
Yeah.
To hold on to additional copies. I know I've seen people talking about they're like Shelter from the Storms. We're expecting a reprint at some point. And a lot of people are like, hey, normally I would hold 2 play sets of Majestics that are playable so I can fill in different decks. I'm going to get rid of one. Maybe I get rid of both. I'm not playing them in a deck right now. And if they announce it's a reprint in the next set, is that $100 Majestic going to be $5? And they're like, it's not really worth it. So there's a lot of like nervousness about that. We see New Horizon is at like $18 or something. Mm-hmm. Flick Knives is low 20s. And again, Flick Knives was, I had a local talking to me the other day. He was complaining. He's like, I bought my Flick Knives for New Arachne like 3 days before they announced the reprint, and I paid $110 for the rainbow foil. And now I can buy the non-foil for $25, and that's just frustrating. So there's a balance, because like with the Hunted, they tried it for Command and Conquer, and they tried it for one other prior to that, didn't they? Was there a reprint?
I don't recall.
Or am I getting
from Rosetta? I don't think there was a reprint in Rosetta. Because there was Command and Conquer, and then there was Codex in High Seas.
Yeah, so Command and Conquer, I think they played it too conservative. Command and Conquers were really hard to pull out of the Hunted. And so we saw the price almost not move at all. Then they bumped up the print rate a bunch for High Seas, and we saw Codexes come down to like a third of the price. But they went down to a reasonable number. They're at, what, 25, 30?
Yeah, and that was great.
Yeah, and that's like a really good number. But the thing was, they printed that as legendary. Then you flash forward to this set, and they printed Felling and Plow as Majestics at the full print rate. And all of a sudden, you're basically doubling the supply of those cards. Whereas for the previous Codex of Frailties, they had probably added like 25%, 30% more, maybe 50% more, but less than half additional into circulation. Whereas these, it's basically going to be a double, and that tanks the price because there's just not enough demand to absorb those additional copies.
Well, and in addition to like the previous reset or reprints with Command & Conquer and Codex, we saw alt arts. So there was somewhat of a demand, at least, for a reason to pick them up because the art was different. So if you preferred this art over another art, you could buy that out of preference. And then in addition, simultaneously, it also lowered the price to kind of equalize the overall market value of these cards.
Yeah.
When you see Plow and Felling reprinted in non-foil, majestic rarity, where, you know, LSS has this thing of the policy of like, if we're going to reprint a card, we want it to look worse if it's reprinted in the same rarity or different as an alternate art. So how they made this worse is they removed the earth symbol.
Yeah, the earth symbol behind the text
and
box
they got rid
gone.
of the flavor text.
I don't know if there was flavor text on Plow, but Felling definitely lost it.
Which it's like, okay, sure, but it doesn't dramatically change the demand.
Fact that Rosetta Plows are already down to $8 or $9.
Yeah, and so overnight when you drop something from $50 to $5, it's such an incredible whiplash into the market space that, like, I mean, for me, I've talked about in some of my prior videos, I've been downgrading my entire collection over the last last year, really. But, like, just because, one, I don't want to have all my money tied into it because it's not an aspect of the hobby that I enjoy as much anymore. But also, similarly, because of things like this, you know, like, they're experimenting with the market, things are getting reprinted, stuff is fluctuating greatly in its value. Because then, on contrary, we see the Felling Plow reprint. We also got the Warmonger reprint in this set.
Yep, that's another interesting one.
Which was very unique because they didn't do a non-foil. They only did rainbow foil and cold foil for this.
Yeah.
So now we have this other weird dynamic now with Dusk Till Dawn where we see non-foil Warmongers still retaining its value.
I think they're going to end up being more expensive than the rainbow foils.
Yeah, but the rainbow foils now are lowering to a point where there's not as much reason to get the rainbows because now you can get the cold foils. So now you have this weird middle market space where, like, the non-foils are still retaining value, but the rainbow foils are below, and then the cold foils are up and now. Yeah. So very strange.
Outside of the print rarity or the finishes for those, I do think that the Warmongers was like a very good reprint.
Yeah,
we saw it,
I like that one.
It dropped from what, like 70 to 25?
Yeah,
which is like that's like a reasonable number. Obviously, it's still a big jump.
So, like, the alt art provides the, again, like, the secondary incentive of, like, well, maybe I like this art more, so I'll rather pick up this art, you know? So, outside of that, it's a very strange space because I really don't want to be the guy who's like, we need more reprints, and then they give us reprints, and I'm like, not like that, you know? But it's tough when,
I like the Snag reprint.
The Snag reprint was perfect.
They short printed that.
Yeah.
So there was about half as many as there were of the Fellings and Plows.
Yeah.
Which is good, so we saw less of a drop.
And even the Flick and the New Horizon reprint, I don't have as much of an issue with that because I don't like having legendaries in the game being absurdly expensive.
Yeah.
I like
those
when they're
both
accessible.
Like 100 plus, right?
Yeah. I'm very happy when I see a legendary sit between the $20 to $50 range. I think that that's great.
I do think the pull rates were too high on those.
But the pull rates were a little high.
Because like we pulled more New Horizons and more Flick Knives than we did of the new legendaries, which is like, but this is adding to an already existing supply. There should be less of that than a brand new supply.
Yeah.
At least in my eyes.
So we're seeing, not to continue belaboring the point, but we're seeing LSS experiment, like we said. They're trying different things. They're trying different solutions to resolve problems that currently exist in the game, specifically in the market space, with cards being too expensive, having inaccessibility issues. So they're trying to fix that in creative ways,
right?
Different ways,
which is really good. They're trying to make a change. They recognize the problem. They're trying to make a change, and it hasn't been the solution hasn't been finely tuned. But they're trying stuff, and they're not just going, it'll be fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
just keep paying $100 for all your stuff.
Yeah, and so they're doing a good job in that regard. And I'm a little salty just because obviously I bought my fellings and plows like 2 months ago, and then I just lost like $200.
I sold my fellings and plows like 3 or 4 months ago. I'm like, sick. I can buy them back for like $50 for the set.
So it's like, it is what it is, but that's part of playing card games, right? Like that is the aspect of a trading card game, especially now when you're trying to focus on accessibility and getting new players into the game. That just comes with the territory, right? Like, again, Levi and I came from Yu-Gi-Oh!, which was a space where stuff got reprinted to oblivion, and all the value kind of got sucked out in a lot of ways. But the one way that they balanced it was everything was in different treatments.
Yeah.
So old stuff or different higher end treatments still retain some level of their value. I think in accordance to this.
They retained it well in Yu-Gi-Oh! I won't go too long on about it, but there's a lot of like desirability for original highest rarity in that game. People really, really liked those. And I think FAB has a lot less collectors who care about that, which makes it harder for it to retain the older cards.
Yeah,
or the older cards to retain.
We see the demand for the highest level print treatment for cards in Flesh and Blood. And the thing that we've now been seeing a lot is they'll create, let's just talk about like the hero tokens very briefly, where you'll see old ones where they're like the old cold foil treatment where it's just the borders.
Yeah.
And then they do a rainbow foil, and then there's the non-foil. And then they do the new age cold foil treatment where it's like the whole hero's cold foil.
But it'll be as a marvel.
No, not even. And then they'll do marvels.
Was there a hero that went from regular cold foil to new cold foil without a marvel?
Uzuri. Then it got a marvel. Oh, you're talking about old cold foil treatment.
Yeah, old cold foil and new cold.
Briar saw cold foil, promo cold foil, marvel.
Sure, but that was
and rainbow.
The changed cold foil was because of the errata, right?
Sure, whatever you want to say.
Okay.
However you want to call it. Sure, but it still happened. So we're seeing that like with Prism Awakener of Soul now in the gem pack, where she had her cold foil treatment, and now we're getting the marvel treatment. So people who had invested in the cold foil treatment at one point was the highest rarity. Now it's outdated, and they don't really care that it's an older treatment. They just want the highest version of it. So they'll be like, I'm going to go to the marvel treatment, and now those cold foils drop and are kind of significantly less in their value.
Yeah, the Azurian Riptide.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's just an example, like we're saying, like in Yu-Gi-Oh!, the old treatment print was a higher print run typically, and even if they produced a like higher rarity of it, there's still like an equal demand of...
Yeah, the original printing was always like higher demand.
Yeah. Okay, anyway, we talked about this for a very long time. Some of you probably don't think this is interesting at all, so let's just move on to the meta at this point. So calling, we had the calling this weekend in Japan, along with the Battle Harden, which was Living Legend, and we're just going to kind of discuss that briefly to see what the early impact of Super Slam has looked like. And it's kind of like I was alluding to earlier, we still have these really powerful decks from the previous set releases that have not changed much. Like it's pretty much the same decks that we were seeing doing well a couple months back, even with the bans and even with the adjustments to Gravy.
Yeah.
We're still just seeing them perform incredibly well.
Yeah, Gravy's still a good deck.
Yeah.
You put a good player on Gravy, and they do well.
Well, you just have a lot of agency. You get to really choose your plays and get to decide your outcomes. You have a lot more agency in the outcomes of your games compared to a lot of other heroes. Yeah. I think the only difference that we're seeing now currently is that Brutes actually have somewhat more impact in the meta, seeing KO and Rhinar in top 8 performing pretty well across the board. Again, we could talk a little bit about the whole KO thing.
Yeah.
KO.
Did you see the conversion rates on the old KO?
No. How much was it?
11%.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
It was like really bad.
Yeah.
Because I think the total conversion rate from day 1 to day 2 was like 20-something%.
How many people were playing KO in the overall space?
I think it was 44 people registered at day 1, and then 5 made day 2.
Okay. I mean, that's kind of like Syndra numbers for a very long time.
Syndra had a really good conversion rate.
She
had like 40% or something.
But I'm saying previously, Syndra is the greatest worst deck that has ever existed in Flesh and Blood.
Greatest deck?
Yeah.
Or greatest worst deck?
Both.
Sure.
It depends on the week. Literally, like, that deck in its existence has been like, this is the top meta deck, and then literally 2 weeks later, the deck is just getting destroyed.
Yeah.
And so now and it makes sense. We're in a new meta, typically at the start of a brand new meta. aggro can just kind of wreck in a lot of different ways, particularly Syndra, because she has a lot of good tools to beat Gravy, which is one of the best decks, and beat the Earth heroes.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. Fi also probably would have done incredibly well, but that's a whole different story.
Obviously, he would have won the entire
Fi
event.
probably would have won, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
So now we're left with Syndra. No, that's too far for me to bring Fi. But like we were saying, we saw KO not do incredibly well, but I think that is that makes a lot of sense given the newness of the meta. Granted, the deck hasn't dynamically changed, but they're still trying to smooth out the builds.
Yeah, I think also the narrative going into that weekend is KO is the best deck and will be the most represented. And so people were like, I need to bring a deck that has a plan into KO. I'm going to bring sideboard tech for KO. I can't be scooping to KO. I have to have a strong plan. And I think once you hit those top tables, everyone there had a good plan into KO. And maybe the KOs didn't have enough time to remake their build and test into the entire field.
Yeah.
Whereas everyone else was just testing into KO primarily.
And even though the deck is pushed and it's got a lot of really good numbers and gameplay and value, it's not like it is incredibly good into the best decks. Like, Gravy is still a tough, like 50, maybe 50-50
Yeah, that matchup seems really awkward.
Yeah, it's incredibly awkward. Florian is still like a 50-50. Verdance is slightly unfavored, probably,
Really?
Well, I haven't played it a lot recently, but she has enough tools to still be able to outlast you. And if your deck clunks and isn't like just functioning at a high level throughout the whole match, she can still kill you because Earth and Arcane and stuff like that. So, because you also have to think like these matchups are 50-50 or close, but then you also have to account for the KO variance.
Yeah.
Where it's like, even though the deck is it's much more consistent and it just has better numbers, you still will have those games where you just straight up discard your Blood Rush off of a 3-card hand and you just like straight up lose your go again on Wild Ride, or you just hit the Beast Within and banish like double Blood Rush or something on the top. Like, that stuff still happens. And although KO has better numbers to still just kind of not have to rely on that stuff, you can just kill yourself. There are a lot, and these Earth heroes, that's not going to happen. Like, the variance that they have to compete with versus what you do as a brute is so low.
I mean, the like worst variance for the Earth heroes is like you draw too many D-reacts when you have tempo.
Yeah, exactly. And then Gravy is like the same.
Did you see the top 8 against Rhinar, where Verdance had the, I think, Light Up the Leaves in Arsenal? And just watching, everyone was like, oh, all you have to do is draw 5 resources.
Yeah.
Burn Bear, blue and a red. It's like, that's not 5 resources.
Yeah, no, and just not being able to finalize the game in that sense, So you have, again, like those kinds of experiences now in Flesh and Blood where there is there's somewhat of higher variance, but a lot of these matchups do come down to the variance points.
Yeah.
And that's where Gravy kind of stands out from a lot of these decks because you have so much more agency and control over the variance in your deck. Of course, you can still end up in bad situations, but just how the deck operates itself gives you so much more control over your decisions compared to KO, where a lot of it's just like Jesus take the wheel situations, where it's like you play for the best outcome, but like you are not in control of how those outcomes play out a lot of times. And then I'd also say like Syndra is also in a similar boat of like the Gravy, where you're valuing consistency of your outcome over variance of the deck, because a lot of the deck is going to do the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah, although Syndra has a lot more like, she has the consistency, but probably a little less control.
Yeah, I mean, you have consistency of like your deck is going to perform to do the same thing turn after turn over and over again, but you have less agency of like what you're doing because
like adapting your game plan. Like your game plan stays pretty consistent.
Yeah, so we pretty much saw exactly what we thought, except for I think the Rhinar was probably one of the more shocking things. I would say
interesting.
Yeah, I would never have had that on my bingo card that Rhinar would have made it to the top 8 of the calling. Especially because he didn't get like significant upgrades from Super Slam. You got like a few side grades here and there, but like ultimately the deck is the same thing that it was.
It's just Rhinar.
It's just Rhinar. And whether it be the field, whether it be the player, whether it be the variance that he experienced throughout his matchups, I think that the deck showed that like it can compete in this meta, clearly. Like it can survive. It does have enough tools, and its game plan is oppressive enough that when you sit down across from a deck, a lot of times it doesn't matter who you're sitting across from because they're just going to eat 25 damage.
Yeah, also on paper, like not Gravy. Rhinar's just good into Earth Heroes, right?
In theory.
Yeah, on paper.
Yeah, on paper.
On paper, he's good into Earth Heroes. Just intimidate all their D-reacts.
Yeah. Like, if you get the opening, like we saw in the one game where he popped his Skullhorn because he was under, like, double Blood Rush and was like, well... Oh, wait, that was against the Verdants, I believe, if I can
must have missed the start of that game then.
Or was that against the Markney? I don't know. There was one game where the Rhinar, I think, did double Blood Rush, and I think it had to be Verdants, and they popped their Skullhorn because they're like, I need a blue, and I just need to filter another Intimidate to try to kill them, and they did it, and they're able to push their lead so far ahead that they're able to win the game at that point. But again, it's kind of, like, well, you're in the Brute situation where it's like you're given lemons and then you decide if you want to make lemonade with those lemons, and then whatever happens from that point on, if people come and buy it, they come and buy it.
Yeah.
And if not, you're just going to sit there with a lot of lemons. So that's Rhinar. But
that's an analogy.
I'll definitely experiment with him a little bit now and check him out because, I always do that. Every meta I revisit Rhinar, and now he's kind of in a position where you can beat, I think you can beat all the top decks. I do think that there are tough matchups that you'll have to experience, but overall, you have a lot of utility and skills to be able to beat those decks. So, again, I don't think that it was incredibly shocking. I think what we saw at the calling was pretty much expected.
Yep, like you said, barring the Rhinar, I think everything was expected.
And even like that finals game of the Syndra versus Gravy, I mean, Justin played incredible and basically set himself up for the perfect opportunity to still even win that game, barring all the variants that occurred. But the Syndra player was able to have the Art of Dragon Fire to clean it up, and it's like, they had it. And I think that showed how close it really is. Like, in a matchup that is supposed to be very favored
on the deck that just ate multiple bans.
yes. It's still able to put up a fight to the position of, like, very convincingly was in a position to win the game and barely lost, right?
Yeah.
So
after playing the exact same matchup in the prior game and have that be another incredible game that is just skin of the teeth win. So.
Yeah. And then just briefly discuss the Living Legend Battle Hardened because, again, we want to cover that and be aware because Worlds is coming up and you're going to have to play it. Top 8 of that was, again, nothing surprising at all. It was literally Briar, Ira, Zen, Chain, and Viserai that won.
Wait, so that's the aggro decks. What were the Fatigue or Control or Disruptive?
Oh, they weren't in the top 8, no. Unfortunately, it's Runeblade season still, as it always is. Runeblade and Ninja season, literally. And like you said, it's incredibly aggressive, incredibly fast. And I think it's quite interesting, too, to see, obviously, Nova won with Viserai, which is also funny to see the top 8. You see, like, these
was that an aggro Viserai?
Basically, it was just like, it was playing cash in and just like...
Okay, so it wasn't like a...
Stack.
Okay.
No. It was like, I'm going to kill you, Viserai.
Understandable.
But that's also the funny thing. Like, you look at the Battle Hardened and you see all these big names that you see. Like, Naib was in there, Brody was in there, Nova was in there. So you just see, like, these OG great players still piloting, like, the decks that they've been piloting for years, doing incredibly well. But there's still, like, some level of innovation in regards to how they're approaching the meta. Like, Brody playing RuneGate Chain had 15 equipment slot pieces and 65 cards in his deck. Just incredible, like, valuing the onboard permanent value far more than, like, the utility space in his sideboard.
Which, I mean, that makes sense in an aggro meta. In an aggro meta, like, you don't get to see that much of your deck. You're always going to see your equipment. So any percentage you can start with in play just makes a lot more sense. Yeah,
and RuneGate is just so ridiculously powerful. Your deck is going to beat pretty much anything that it fights against, barring the variance that you experience as the chain player. And of course, how much time you get to actually play the game. So yeah, I mean, Living Legend is, like I had kind of mentioned if you had watched my Living Legend video, I think that the meta is, people think that the Living Legend meta is quite open and there is a lot of room for innovation, which depends on your definition of innovation. Like, if you want to play a deck that can beat and target a specific sector of the meta, I think then that is true, but you still have to compete with these other decks that are just playing on a different level.
Yeah, you can innovate lots of different ways to get 16 by Zen.
Exactly. And so
you can do that. I could list off like 20 different heroes you could get 16 by Zen.
And that's where I more so sit in the position of like, yeah, you do see there's somewhat of a diversity of heroes. There's some array of options. But I think as we get closer and closer to Worlds and you just start seeing the fruits of people's labor of their testing, right? Like the meta is starting to get smaller. The confinement of what is good and what is not good is starting to get more clear. And you're getting these high-level players that are refining their deck lists to being like, okay, as we're progressing, it's seeming to be very clear that Runeblades and Ninjas are incredibly powerful and just kind of beat out most of what else is in the meta, because there's not really any other answers to getting 60'd unless you 60 them back, you know?
Yeah.
Faster than they
or
60 you.
Or have a ton of disruption.
Yeah, or incredible amount of disruption. But even then, it's like if you miss on disruption on one turn and they happen to have like a combo, you'll just die. So yeah, I don't think that Living Legend is as diverse and as open as some people may think, as they're continuing to explore it more and realize that as you refine these hyper-aggressive decks, the power that they're able to put out is just kind of unmatched.
Yeah.
I mean, I still think Starvo is incredibly powerful and definitely has a position in the game.
Always.
As always. I mean,
his text box is just insane. Yeah. And always will be.
Yeah, the hero. I mean, literally, you also have to consider that Starvo is, like, incredibly nerfed. Like, people playing Starvo now are playing a fragment of what the hero was, and it's still ridiculous.
Because of all the upgrades he's gotten since he was originally in CC, I don't know if I would say he's worse than he was before, but he's pretty close to his original state in power level.
You have a lot of tools and a lot of really powerful options across the board because of all the card pool that you have, but like you don't have Crown of Seeds. All your really powerful on-hit cards are limited to one. You know, like
you have 3 Starstruck, right?
Yeah, but you have 1 crippling.
1 crippling, 1 Oaken.
1 Oaken, yeah. But you have triple felling, which is still ridiculous. You have incredible armor. Yeah, I still think the hero's insane. So we'll see. We'll see if LSS decides to do any more hits or any more balancing before Worlds. I kind of would be shocked if they didn't, but as they continue to acquire more data, they might decide.
When did they say the next BNR was? I thought it was supposed to be like a week or 2 before Worlds.
Yeah, I think there's one more before Worlds happens. So
we should get something.
Yeah, they're continuing to acquire data, and as they have more events.
PQ season data, yeah.
So, yeah, and that's a good transition. Now we can get into PQ season. PQ season's coming up this weekend. We're recording this on the 29th of September, so this weekend is now going to be the first round of Proquest season. And what do you think we're going to see? What do you think is going to be the story of this season?
I think we're going to see a lot of KO.
I think we're going to see a lot of KO and a lot of Florian.
Yep. Probably a lot of Syndra, too.
Probably a lot of Syndra, too, yeah.
I think those are like very powerful at the local level. Where people can pick them up and have a reasonable shot at winning.
Yeah, we're going to see a lot of pub stompers. Like, I call those the pub stomper decks, where they're like pretty high floor, easy, accessible decks to play, especially affordable now. Like, you're not going to be limited a lot by budget for a number of these decks. And the skill level needed to pilot them on a short notice is not incredibly high.
Yeah.
Gravy is one of those decks that I think is...
I mean, there will still be a bunch of people winning on Gravy. A bunch of people winning on Verdance.
But the skill level required to play Verdance and Gravy at a high level is much higher than needed to play KO or Florian or whatever. So yeah, I don't think we're going to see crazy innovation. I mean, there's obviously going to be here and there, depending on the size of the Proquest, there will be some rogue decks or some other variants of decks being able to, like Acilio. I'm sure we'll see Acilio performing at a certain level, winning a good amount of events. But yeah, I think this Proquest season is just going to be the story of, does Florian or KO LL by the time we get to Worlds? And what impact that'll have on the meta if that was to happen.
Because KO is getting 1.5 points now, right?
I believe so, because Heavy Hitters came out at the beginning of 2023.
Yeah.
No. 2024.
Oh, okay. So he's on regular points?
Well, it hasn't been 2 years yet, so I'm pretty sure he's still on regular points. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because it was literally last year. Heavy Hitters, Mist Veil, Rosetta.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, he's not quite there yet. Florian he doesn't have the limiter on, so he's still also like a 1 point right now.
Yeah, he's at regular as well now.
Yeah. So we'll see how many they win. They'll probably need a calling win or something to happen before Worlds for KO particularly, even maybe Florian for them to fully LL.
Yeah. How many legal heroes do we have right now?
It's over 30. I remember I just
I
counted
think it's
it.
close to 40.
It's like 30. It's like around 35, I think.
Okay, so prediction question. How many heroes are not going to win a PQ? Because I would say how many will, but I don't know how many the total heroes are.
I don't know. Maybe, I'd say around 15, maybe.
You think it'll be that high?
I think that there's a lot of viability for a number of decks to be able to win. Because I think there's a lot of decks that sit in like the A, B tier.
Yeah.
And like a lot of these Proquests are small. They're like
I was saying that high the other
people. Way. Oh, you're saying you think that it's be even higher?
I think there will be more heroes that win.
Okay.
I'm going to guess, I'll go very generous, 10 heroes will not win a PQ.
Which 10 do you think won't win?
I don't know.
Olympia
Betsy's on that list.
Olympia just got a whole new armor set.
Oh, Olympia's definitely win. Okay, Olympia's on that list probably.
Yeah. Huntsman, honestly, I think people are ragging on Huntsman, but I totally think that deck
I think he'll take a PQ.
Easily can beat easily win a ProQuest.
Do you know if Tao Tao's going to take it to his PQs?
Maybe, who knows?
Might go back to his roots.
Yeah, but that deck now with that D-React I think is enough to like actually mill people out.
Yeah, like it's not a super competitive pick. You think Marlon's going to win a PQ, get her first LL points?
No.
Wow.
I don't think so.
All right, I'm signing up for PQ this Saturday.
Yeah, please. I would love for you to show the people that the deck is not unplayable. Because I don't think the deck is unplayable. I lose to it so many times. So, yeah. But ProQuest season, again, I think the story of this season will be will KO or Florian LL before Worlds. I think that's kind of what everyone's wondering.
Yeah.
And so then leading after that is Worlds. We'll be having Worlds in Philly in November. It's going to be here in no time. And really the questions are going to be what heroes are legal? Are there going to be any more hits and bans for LL? I'm pretty confident that CC probably will not have any more adjustments to it.
We'll see how PQ season goes.
Okay,
If something's really dominating or people start figuring out lists and get them more refined, we may see a hit.
I'd be surprised if there was, but it definitely could happen. I'm open to it happening for maybe like KO potentially if he doesn't LL. I don't really think there's anything they should hit, but it's kind of has like a lot of high-level cards that they could take things away to kind of knock it down a little bit. Yeah, definitely Blood Rush needs to be banned. So yeah, we'll see for Worlds. There's nothing new going to be happening, like no new cards coming out before Worlds. So this is
correct.
This is what we have.
The new Armory deck is not legal for Worlds.
Yeah.
It's legal for the Calling at Worlds. So it's the Rhinar one, right?
Yes, the Rhinar one.
So that'll be legal for the Calling at Worlds, but not at Worlds itself.
Yeah, but even like the Calling, 9th place, the one that bubbled was Markney, and then 10th place was Acilio. So like there's still a lot of decks that can compete and are performing well, and just like depending on the day, depending on the slight variance points, can very easily make it into the top 8 of a big event.
Yeah.
So I think that there's still quite a bit of depth in the meta and quite a bit of open-endedness to where there's enough decks that have varying matchup spreads to where depending on the gem pairing, depending on the variance of that day, you could easily top 8 events or win events.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So we'll see from there. This video is probably pretty long, so we'll wrap it up here. I think going forward, leading up to Worlds, I'm going to be doing much more Living Legend stuff to overview that, whether it be like hero overviews or history lessons. Expect some more deck techs for some of the new heroes, like new KO and old KO. And then we might have, we're going to be doing some other fun videos, just like overviewing the year of Flesh and Blood in general, overviewing some of the cards, the releases, what we've experienced this year, stuff like that. And then if there's anything else that you guys want to see, let us know. In particular, if there's any discussions, any topics, anything you want our opinion on, or just like heroes.
When are we getting gameplay going again?
Gameplay is really something we want to try to aim to do as well. We're trying to get the setup finalized so that we can redo that again, but we are really trying to aim to get some more gameplay going for you guys, because I know that that's been highly requested and definitely in demand for the new heroes and LL and just all that stuff. So yeah, if you guys have any suggestions, anything else you want to see, let us know if there's things about this video you liked or if you hated or if you just don't care about what we have to say about it.
Tell me to shut up and stop rambling about card prices and print rates and all that stuff.
And we'll be happy to abide by whatever your demands are.
Absolutely.
But for now, I'm Super Slam Dando, and this is Levi.
Yeah, that's me.
And we'll talk to you guys later. All right, see ya. Thank God it recorded.